So this is the Scenario 2 of Combat Commander Europe, Volume 1. And this is the map and the setup I did, but I've also played the kind of first hands. The Germans broke the Americans' radio. Americans moved up, fired here, broke the unit. But the Germans were able to recover, moved these units up here, up here. The Americans could set up on these 3 rows here, and basically the Germans set up on the other half of the board. They have all the objectives, and they are the defender, the Americans are the attacker. And so they have a hand of 6, Germans have a hand of 4. The Americans placed the mortar unit here because they can shoot down the road, basically preventing these guys to push forward as a threat. Better units and the heavy guns were hit in the center here. Kind of the lighter guys here, probably the weakest units are up there, covering the flank there. As you can see, the Americans only have one lone guy off by himself, no leadership, as do the mortar team. On to the next hands. So after a few hands, a lot of them were thrown away because they didn't have good cards. But the Americans broke that guy through a sniper. Bad planning here, moved here, but didn't have any other cards to move to get around to assault this position. And he can't shoot this way because the hedge is blocking the view. Glare. And then the Americans tried to move up out of this area and then up to this edge of the hedge, but got fired upon by here and broke. And then the German player had a rout action, and both the units ran off the map, failed their rally. This one survived. So not looking good for the Americans at this point. So things are not quite going well for the Americans, in the sense that they were able to move around here, able to break a unit, killing him as he retreated back to this objective. They had an exchange of their elite squad and took out the Germans that were here, but you know, the Americans have lost this. The Germans are doing well because the Germans have shifted these guys out of this thing to guard this objective hex, and they started moving these guys back because there's no one really to defend. So the Germans are going to come over and try to block these units and probably take them out. We have done 2 decks ended, so the time shift moved up, but also the defender, the Germans, gained 2 victory points. So it doesn't look like the Americans are doing well. So after a few hands, the Americans actually shifted over and wiped out the Germans that were in K2, combination of fire and advance. But this unit was broken by these Germans shot over here, and we had an event. Americans got a hero and actually rallied that line. Also got hit by that fire onto the unit here in I-4. Germans, after that firing, had no fire in their hand, so they've been trying to shift these forces over here to protect that objective, which is probably going to be lost. This unit over here might be able to take that, but the unit is broken. But the units back here might be able to. The draws have been problematic for both sides. We still have this guy over here with his mortar, but not doing much. Took a shot down the road, but nothing happened. And tried to use the artillery once, but didn't do much either. If the Germans lose a couple more units, 2 or 3, when they hit their surrender, if they lose 3 more, they're out. Americans can lose up to 4, which is basically everybody on the board at this time. No, over there, mortar. So they have more guys than that they could lose a little, 1 or 2. But so I'm calling this scenario as a victory for the Germans. Basically, the casualty track is slightly up for the Americans, but the victory point is already up here. The Americans can move off these guys for victory points, but basically, with the Americans having no troops per se, the Germans could, if the Americans moved everybody off the map, they could just take these victory point objective hexes and still win the game. So I'm calling this as a German victory and move on to scenario 3. Basically, the reason for calling it is these guys have been shooting back and forth. If the Germans lose this guy or anything like that, they're going to hit surrender, but they have victory points up high enough, so just save time and start the next episode is why I'm calling it as victory for the Germans, because the Americans really can't do anything at this point to be effectively taking these areas. The Germans can hold off. There's no way they can get it by the time that if the Germans lose another unit.